Okay, so today's talk is about opioid addiction and natural pain relief. I'm Mary Bourne. I'm a traditional naturopath. My website is bornforhealth.com. And if you want to email me, you can at drmary@bornforhealth.com. And just as a word of caution, this information is for educational purposes only, and please consult a qualified health professional for specifics on your health care. So, opioid addiction is major. Now, it has not gotten better since the stay home situation, and we're going to kind of go over that. And if I can get my slide to move. There we go. So, and if I can get rid of me, there we go. So, opioid addiction and alternative ways to relieve pain. So, obviously, in the herbal world, we have nothing as strong as opioids. However, we're going to discuss the history of opioids and how they started out as puppies. So, but first of all, let's consider the fact that this situation has the stay home policy has created isolation and loneliness, and actually the abuse of these medications have escalated. Medical doctors can now prescribe without even seeing a person. All they have to do is call in. They've got a video or a virtual way of prescribing. The person can just go to the drugstore and get what they need, and they're still prescribing these heavy doses of medication, even though they're not able to see people. And it's really kind of a sad situation. There have been 30% increase in anxiety medications in 1 month's time. That was between the month of March 15th and April 15th. And it is all due to the fact that we're dealing with a lot of loneliness. So what are opioids? They're a class of pain-relieving medications that include morphine, heroin, codeine, hydrocodone, oxycodone, fentanyl, and many others. These drugs are based on compounds originally found in the opium poppy, which has been used for pain for thousands of years. So in this video, you can see, or slide, I should say, these scarrings. So the actual pod of the opium poppy is this milky substance is the desired product, so to speak. And you collect that and dry it. So it is quite a process. So now there's a thing called poppy seed wash or tea, and it suppresses your perception of pain and can calm your emotional response to pain by reducing the number of pain signals sent by the nervous system and the brain's reaction to those pain signals. So it is important to remember that opioids only suppress pain. And so I thought I'd show you the difference between, this is an opium poppy, the top one, and generally has 4 petals. The seed pod is globular, whatever you call it, in shape. It doesn't have to be red. There's pink, there's white, there's a bunch of different ones. The leaf is generally kind of a bluish color. So that differs from what we know as the ornamental poppy that we see a lot of. The seed pod is considerably different. It's not smooth and round. It sometimes is a little bit hairy. However, and I'm not sure because I got two differing things on when I researched it about poppy seed bagels or muffins. You know, I love lemon poppy seed muffins. And supposedly one muffin or one bagel is not a big deal. Um, if you do 2 to 3, you could produce a positive in a drug test due to the way the tests are given. And we know that not all poppies are opiate poppies, but poppy seed can still give you this uh, relaxation, calming feeling. So it has a history of medicinal use, but it's unfortunately been overused. So again, you see the scarring over here of where the milk had been removed from um, uh, the fluid had been removed from the poppy seed, or the pod rather. And the seed pod is first incised with like a multi-bladed tool. And in some countries where they grow these, they grow the type that is about waist high. So the poppy stands up waist high, makes it much easier to score it and collect the milk from it. And you do have to have a license to do this. If you can grow, we'll talk about that in a minute, but you can grow the opium poppy, you just can't scar the pod. So heroin is made from opium and often mixed with a myriad of other drugs and chemicals to create greater potency. In the 1970s, a researcher named Candace Pert, working with neuroscientist Solomon H. Snyder, while Candace Pert wrote the book Molecules of Emotion, excuse me, and it's an extremely dry but interesting book. So they discovered together that there were certain receptor sites in the brains that accepted opiates, and that it induced calmness and sometimes to a comatose state. And these receptor sites for neurotransmitters called endorphins contracted from endogenous morphine. All opioids work by binding to these receptor sites. So endorphins play a role in inhibiting pain. They also help to create a euphoric state. Examples of this euphoric state include runner's high, sexual activity, orgasm, listening to uplifting music, and eating appetizing foods such as chocolate. So activities that release endorphins are meditation, laughter, vigorous aerobic exercise, and I might add to that hugging, because there are times when you can release endorphins simply by hugging, and it releases a level of dopamine and serotonin, which can boost your mood and relieve symptoms of depression. And it's a natural response to somebody being compassionate to somebody else's pain. So it also helps you feel understood and helps you relax enough to take a deep calming breath. If you've noticed that when you've consoled somebody by hugging that is in an upset state, you will notice that after a short time, they do take this big sigh. And that's when you know that the hugging has done its job. And according to science, there's a lot to be gained from what one study called warm touch. And they found the sweet spot to be about 20 seconds of continuous hugging. If you ever time that, that's considerable. Most people, maybe 2-3 seconds, they don't feel comfortable being hugged for a long time. And I was watching a YouTube video about introducing this warm touch experiment, and they had two guys and two gals, and the two guys were going to hug, and they said, we don't do this, it's like, and the other guy says, I hug everybody, I'm a real hugger. And so you could see when the one guy hugged the other one, the one that was resistant, you could see him stiff. And by the end of about 15 seconds into the 20-second time, you could actually see his whole physiology change. And it was almost like he did so there is a lot of research yet to be done on it, but during a hug, oxytocin is released, and this is a hormone that relaxes us and it lowers anxiety. And so I personally think we ought to hug more and forget all this social distancing crap. So what happened in 2018 alone, about 47,000 people died from opioid overdose, and about 1/3 of these deaths being from prescription drugs. So between 20 to 30% of people who are prescribed opioids for chronic pain misuse them. And unfortunately, the medical doctors were told that there is no addictive studies, and when they were introduced, medical doctors thought they were really safe and had no qualms about giving these to people. So about 8 to 12% develop an opioid disorder, which is really a lot of people. And the CDC estimates that the total economic burden of prescription opioid misuse alone in the United States is 78,000 more than billion a year. And then we go legal and illegal opioids. So about 4 to 5% of the people who misuse prescription opioids wind up switching to illegal opioids like heroin. And about 80% of the people who take heroin first misuse prescription opioids. And they, they say, I did a lot of research on this, and I did a lot of video watching. And this one video where the people were in a group and they were trying to get off of the heroin use. The people said, and they were almost all in agreement with this, that one day they would say, I would never stick a needle in my arm, and the next day they did. So it's instant. The need is that quick that they would do anything to stop that pain. And the pain now is no longer the original pain. The pain is the addiction itself. So there have been many of the deaths from illegal opioids began with the use of prescription opioids. And since 1999, about 500,000 people have died from opioid overdose around the world. And unfortunately, it gets so bad that the suicide rate is tremendous. So the opioid crisis, the current opioid problem, started in the late 1990s when pharmaceutical companies reassured the medical community. So that was just 30 years ago, where they said, patients won't become addicted. They lie. The medical community is lied to repeatedly by the pharmaceutical industry, and I have no idea why they can still trust what these people say. They do not do the studies that need to be done for safety, and they overlook so many of the studies that show this particular thing is unsafe. And it's like the public is the one that are the guinea pigs. We're the study. And so I personally don't want anything shot into me, and that includes the vaccine. So as a result, opioids started being prescribed at greater rates. Unfortunately, these drugs are addictive. We know that. And it is a horrible, horrible crisis. So let's look into a brief history of opioids. The opium poppy. Opium had been in use as a pain medication and hallucinogenic drug for almost 5,000 years. The Chinese used to actually have opium dens, and in these dens, you were watched. If you would slide off and have slow breathing where they were concerned, they'd get you up and get you walking. And so they knew that there had to be some safety precautions, that everybody acted differently on these, and some people were far more susceptible than other people. So Thomas Sydenham introduced the tincture of opium known as laudanum into medical practice in the 1700s. Sydenham believed opium was a gift from God to relieve man's suffering. It was widely used in America for a variety of problems, but was soon recognized to be addictive. So growing poppies, totally legal. These are organic even sources of poppies that you can get from any store, and actually the ones online actually showed opium poppy, where these show Lawrence grape, Hungarian blue. It actually said opium right on it, but I couldn't get a picture of that. So it's legal to collect the seeds. Seed from pod can be dried and used in bakery items with generally no effect. So this is a picture of an ad for paregoric or laudanum, and they even recommended it for children. I mean, that's how crazy it was. It was 10 cents per pound, so it was like, really, really cheap. So it's a tincture of opium containing approximately 10% powdered opium by weight, but it had a nasty, bitter flavor. And laudanum contains almost all of the opium alkaloids, so they actually they didn't purify it at all. It was basic 10% to, they put it in an alcohol tincture, and so it varied in strength. And you'd think, okay, a dose would be a teaspoon in a glass of wine, and the next time you'd buy it from some other guy, it could be 10 times stronger. So you just never knew what you were getting. Sort of like street drugs. So morphine, in the early 1800s, the alkaloid morphine was extracted from opium, and it was named after the ancient Greek god of dreams, Morpheus. Morphine, now morphine, during a surgical procedure, it would be good to have something that would take away that brief pain. So besides pain, it was used for anxiety, respiratory problems, and consumption or tuberculosis. It was used during the Civil War to manage pain from battle wounds. Laudanum was given to any hysterical woman. Anytime a woman would be fed up with things and an abusive husband, she was dosed with laudanum. I mean, it was really crazy. So in the war, it was no big deal for men to get these tablets. In fact, there's one historical thing on Hitler, who he actually fed his soldiers like phenytoin, and it it caused them to be lackadaisical about what they were doing. So in other words, they didn't, it almost affected their prefrontal lobe, where they didn't care that they were killing children and women and men, and they were in a state where conscience and morality didn't exist. So it's really been around for a long time, and it's a real horrible horrible thing if misused. So heroin was synthesized in 1898, so that's way old. And Bayer, so this is where Hitler got his drugs from, was Bayer, and that was in Germany. And it was sold as a non-addictive morphine substitute and cough suppressant. So it's awful the way people are taught to believe in these horrible, horrible things without questioning, without research, and sometimes being bullied into using this. And so heroin was actually outlawed in 1924 after its highly addictive nature became known. But look at this, almost 100 years later, and we're still finding it as a street drug. So it was still widely used as an illegal drug, but not exactly prescribed. And oxycodone, in 1916, German scientists synthesized a new opioid drug, oxycodone. It was supposed to be non-addictive, and it was sold under the trade name OxyContin. And I know I have had people that have used it. They've thought it was wonderful. They didn't realize how addictive it was. Luckily, they just used it for a little bit. But, when somebody gives you 30 tablets and you can use 1 to 2 tablets every 4 to 6 hours, and it only takes 3 days to be addicted to oxycodone. I didn't know that. It doesn't take long to have that dependency for some people. So in 2007, Purdue Pharma pleaded guilty in misleading the public about OxyContin's addictive nature. They knew for almost 20 years that it had this addictive nature, and it was still such a high-selling drug, but they settled for $635 million. I'm sure that their revenues from it were more than double. So now this one is a really nasty one, fentanyl, a relatively new synthetic opioid. It 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. A sugar packet size bag of fentanyl can provide about 500 lethal doses. So you need a stack of it. So it's made in China, and and this is my fear that most of these vaccines are going to be coming from China, and the way the pharmaceutical industry is so lackadaisical about things, who knows? I think we might be dosed with some of this stuff to forget about our moral convictions. Or the mandated vaccines need to be fought against. We cannot allow that to happen. It is shipped legally into the United States and Canada for medical use. It is also shipped in bulk to drug cartels in Mexico, so where it is mixed with heroin or other drugs and smuggled across the border. So it isn't actually made in Mexico, but shipped from China. So addiction occurs because artificially stimulating any neurotransmitter system results in the body downregulating that system. When a person tries to discontinue the drug, the body has adapted to the presence of the drug, which means it now becomes difficult to get the natural high from normal healthy behaviors. And that's what they say in when you go to these addiction anonymous groups. They say that you're always trying to reach that first high, because that was the most the biggest awareness that highs could exist. So other opiate side effects, the endorphin system that opiates activate induces sleepiness and slows intestinal peristalsis and respiratory function. So the addictive person usually has very slow moving bowels. They have to take something to initiate removal of toxins. And in the short run, this means opiates can cause nausea, vomiting, dizziness, and tired. They're full of toxins because they can't eliminate them really well. Plus, they're putting in more toxins. They don't eat well. They eat junk food. It's just a whole bag full of problems. So overdose typically causes death by shutting down breathing. So they just, relax enough that even breathing doesn't happen. So when taken over long periods, opioids can cause severe constipation and abdominal pain. It causes depression, irregular heartbeat, and increased risk of heart attack. So slowing of intestinal paralysis contribute to the development of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So these are bacteria that are bad bacteria that lie in the small intestine, and they lead to leaky gut syndrome, which contributes to allergies. It's just a whole syndrome of pain and problems that just keep rotating. So pain is a signal that tells us the body has been damaged. It is part of the normal inflammatory process the body uses to deal with injury. So even as young people, we have to learn there is pain in this world, and that we can learn some healthy ways to deal with this pain. Without pain, we wouldn't recognize that we were hurt and take steps to heal. So pain is like nighttime to day. We need the nighttime, we need the rest, we need sleep, we need that downtime to help our brains detoxify. And sometimes we need pain to tell us, hey, you're not eating the right foods, you're not sleeping right, you're not doing the right things. And we have to learn to recognize that. So blocking pain signals can be helpful sometimes, like if you're going through an operation, but it doesn't aid healing. It does not contribute to the healing process. And then there's the puzzle of chronic pain. So as tissues heal, inflammation and the acute pain associated with it subside. The body uses chemical messengers like endorphins and cannabinoids to modulate the pain signals and restore feelings of well-being as we heal. Chronic pain usually means the damage is never fully healed, which means the inflammation, the damage is still present. So in other words, you haven't paid attention to that pain, and you keep reusing it, and you keep injuring it. And you keep eating the food that contribute to inflammation. So permanent pain relief must assist the healing process. People need to share this information and make people more aware that pain is an indication. So herbal anti-inflammatories not only reduce inflammation and pain, they can also speed healing. So some examples are turmeric, the thing on the turmeric with black pepper extract, which assists the tissues getting more of the curcumin, is really beneficial. You take 3 twice a day, and then for a month, and then you can subside to 2 twice a day. And then mangosteen has the xanthones in it, and this is our Tigo drink, which is a really lovely drink. I actually take my Tigo and a squirt of CBD. So I'm getting 2 of the anti-inflammatories. Boswellia and frankincense, ginger, especially fresh. There's lots of ways that you can make ginger. I've just recently seen a thing on making fermented ginger beer. Basically, it's not beer. It's like kombucha, only ginger. Licorice, yucca. There's people that can't do licorice. It affects their blood pressure, but yucca is excellent. There's nobody that I've seen that, and these are very mucilent, soothing herbs. And devil's claw is also had great scientific studies on that. So turmeric contains curcumin and other anti-inflammatory compounds. Curcumin is a potent anti-inflammatory that can help to reverse inflammation and relieve pain. It inhibits activity of the transcription factor NF-κB, a pro-inflammatory messenger, and it's part of the immune response. So it's not something we want to get rid of. It just happens. And it's part of this signaling process that occurs in our body, which is a good thing. Clinical research suggests it can be a valuable remedy in treating rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and other inflammatory conditions. So osteoarthritis and turmeric. In one clinical study, taking 500 milligram turmeric extract twice daily significantly reduced pain and improved functionality compared to baseline after 8 weeks of treatment in patients with osteoarthritis of the knee. So in that case, you might want to do the 3 twice a day for 8 weeks. You know, if you went down to the 4 a day and saw a measurable increase in your pain, then go back up. There's no law against it. So, and it's not harmful in any way. It's just expensive. So patients taking this extract also had significantly reduced usage of analgesics and NSAIDs. And we know that there's some very big problems with NSAIDs, that it can affect the gut lining and cause leaky gut as well. So, and it changes the pH. It also can affect the bacteria in the gut. So the extract used in this study was standardized to contain 20% curcumins, providing 75% curcumin complexed with phosphatidylcholine, and I believe that's the Nature Sunshine one. It has that same dosage. So corticoids, this is a yucca plant. So the adrenal hormone cortisol reduces inflammation. Corticosteroid drugs mimic cortisol. So this comes from the adrenal gland. When the adrenal gland is not dealing with an abundance of stress, it can put out cortisol and help you deal with the inflammatory process. So they also relieve pain, but have short-term and long-term side effects. So corticosteroid drugs are very common, and I'm concerned about the amount of use that people are doing with it. They're not recognizing the side effects. It can be even purchased at the drugstore over the counter. There's no prescription necessary for it. It's often in some creams, but remember, the skin is the largest absorptive organ that we have, and just because you're putting it on your skin doesn't mean it's not getting in your body. In fact, it's a great delivery system for like essential oils and that. So alternative remedies that have a cortisol-like action include yucca, licorice root, and wild yam. So this is the very busy endocannabinoid system, and all of the areas that CBD supports. And you can see the CB1, all of the like peach colored are all affected by CB1. So almost every aspect of the human body is going to be affected in one way or another by CBD. And it has both CB1 and CB2 in it. And we did a class on the endocannabinoid system that you can find on my YouTube channel or on my website. And if you can't find them, you can email me, drmary@formforhealth.com, and I will send you the link for that very informative class. So the endocannabinoid system modulates nerve transmissions and immune reactions. So it really is a balancing, it supports balance throughout the entire body, and it helps to downregulate inflammation, and it helps to upregulate healing. CBD is a very, very amazing product, and the studies are and just abounding because of the fact that it's had this taboo attached to it for pharmaceutical, uh, so the pharmaceutical industry could make their billions. They created this bad press, just like they created bad press about this coronavirus and how it was actually supposed to be this horrible pandemic, and it was all a ruse. Uh, we have been told by mainstream media that, oh, it could be dangerous. And yet we're getting these horrible opiates, and oh no, they're safe. So I used to have a fear about using CBD, and I totally do not anymore. So a poorly functioning endocannabinoid system can contribute to chronic pain and inflammation. And if we don't address it, we're kind of cheating ourselves. Also, we've found that taking CBD can actually help balance out some of the bad effects that have occurred from these opiates and drugs that affect that same system. So those studies are exciting. They're starting to come through more and more. So this is a presynaptic sending neuron on the left, and it is sending messages to the postsynaptic receiving neuron on the right. And there are cannabinoid receptors on every single neuron. And so when you take CBD oil, either you're putting it on your skin, which I said it before is a great absorptive organ, or you're taking it internally, you can affect these receptors and calm down pain. So cannabis has been used for pain relief for thousands of years. Cannabis works because it contains the phytocannabinoids that act with the endocannabinoid system. Cannabidiol, or CBD, is one of these phytocannabinoids. CBD is a non-addictive pain reliever that can help with many type of severe or chronic pain. It can work synergistically with other anti-inflammatories, and there's a great video out there. It doesn't take much time to look at it. You can either look up Inside Story of Endocannabinoid System and YouTube. Even if you put in endocannabinoid, you will find it, but that's the actual link to the video that talks about how the endocannabinoid system works. So the advantage of CBD and hemp, CBD or now none of the CBD from hemp has no THC, or very, 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 very little THC. When you're doing marijuana, you're doing levels of THC that can range between 3% and 30%. So depending on the type of plant that you're getting this from and where on the plant that you're getting it from. So it can have addictive qualities itself. CBD is not. CBD actually can help people with the THC addiction. So it has a further advantage over opioids because the endocannabinoid system does not adversely affect gut or respiratory function. And there is no risk of addiction, death, or any serious health problems if a person accidentally takes too much CBD. So this is what frankincense looks like. It's a terpene found in essential oils like copaiba resin, shown left. So it's in black pepper and cloves and copaiba. It has been shown to attach to the CB2 receptors. It reduces inflammation and aiding healing. Copaiba is used as an essential oil and resin, and it is in part of I believe, the IF relief formula. It is neuroprotective and hepatoprotective, which means it protects the nerves and liver. So it is a powerful pain reliever. Chemical messengers that mediate inflammation and healing are made from essential fatty acids. In the absence of sufficient omega-3 fatty acids, there is a tendency to have too many pro-inflammatory chemical messengers, and you can kind of think of frayed hair. If you've ever seen frayed hair, the split end just goes over the place, and if you actually rub a little bit of olive oil on it, it kind of brings it together again. It doesn't quite mend it because it's damaged. But if you take omega oils, you can help your skin, your heart, your brain. So many aspects of the body need omega-3 essential fatty acids. So higher levels of omega-3 help the body produce the chemical messengers that reverse the inflammatory process and start the healing process. Now we know that when we injure ourselves, we need that inflammatory response because that brings with it the tools for the body to repair that particular thing. It brings the ambulances. But we've talked about congestion in other videos where I've talked about the inflammatory response and how sometimes you just need to get rid of some of the ambulances so that the ones with the sick cells can leave the scene. So increasing endorphins naturally, there's meditation, deep breathing, laughter, massage, acupuncture, foods like chocolate, vanilla, essential oils like lavender. In fact, there's a lot of essential oils that are very calming and relaxing. So meditation for pain, relax the body, breathe slowly and deeply. When my husband injured his hand, he was panting. And I said to him, look, for every 3 or 4 pants, take a deep breath. Breathe from the diaphragm. And within seconds, his pain level decreased. We know that if you've ever had natural childbirth, you know that breathing can affect pain in tremendous ways. So once in a meditative state, notice the pain and see where it changes. So if you imagine the pain diminishing and going away, it's helpful rather than, oh my God, so much pain. Keep concentrating on it and keep creating that atmosphere of pain. Massage is also a great way because a lot of times pain is a collection of lymph. And when you get a massage, you're moving that fluid and creating better circulation, and the nerves are removing some of that concentration of pain. And it also releases endorphins, which ease pain. So then there's topical analgesics, work with massage to reduce inflammation and pain and stimulate nerves and circulation. A lot of times the massage therapist will use essential oils or a combination of essential oils that not only are relaxing, but they actually help to calm the pain response and decrease inflammation. And wintergreen, camphor, lavender, clove. We used to use clove oil in teeth, when you had a toothache. Menthol, eucalyptus, and capsicum or capsaicin is a great, it creates that circulation to move things that cause pain. We also have natural opioids, poppy seeds, California poppy, prickly poppy, cordialis, wild lettuce. The California poppy is a very helpful emotional pain reliever, and we use it in flower essence therapy. Distress remedy is a great one that we use for trauma and pain. I've used it in lotions. I've taken it internally. It's very, very helpful when your pain levels are contributing to emotions or vice versa. Cordalis is a bitter herb from Chinese medicine with a warming property. It's used to move blood and qi and contains mild opioids, about 1/50th the strength of opium. So it's not, I mean, mild. It's a main Chinese medicine for pain. It's also used for anxiety and sleep, and it's helpful in weaning off of opiates. What they depend on now is just another drug. It's another injected drug, which has its own set of concerns. There's a lot to be said about pH and electrical energy. pH in an indication of electrical potential. We know that when something is very acid, it can cause pain. So there are different pHs in our body, like our mouth should be like 6.5, but our stomach can be as low as 3.0. The blood has to be 7.4. So it's really depends on what they're testing here. Alkaline solutions are antioxidant and donate electrons, our energy. However, I'm not sold on alkalizing water. I think doing vegetables is a better, longer lasting source of creating a good pH. I do like liquid chlorophyll. That actually seems to get in the blood and modulate the pain response. So acid solutions are oxidant and steal electrons, and alkaline solutions are good. So the vegetables are more alkalizing, and sugar is highly oxidant. So chronic fatigue results when the body becomes acidic and its electrons or energy reserves are low. So you can alkalize the body. A lot of people were doing that celery fast, and that was very alkalizing. Chronic pain is associated with overacidity or lack of electrical energy. To relieve the pain, alkalize the body by drinking more water, using fresh raw vegetables and some fruits, juices, fasting, and using alternatives, especially as teas. So red clover has a great history of using it, burdock, alfalfa, so check into that. So pain relieving through energy, adding energy to the body promotes healing and pain. We used to have what we call the sine wave machine, where you put these electrical pads on and send impulses through the body, and that actually helped to reduce pain as well. So those was done through electrical currents. There are sunlight, laser light. There's lasers now that are very beneficial for pain. Magnets seem to draw energy in different ways. Laying on of hands, you know what I mean? Like that also, like that's to me, it's part of hugging. It's the intent of the person that is doing the therapy. Grounding is very, very good. So walking around in untreated grass is really good, or walking along the beach is very helpful. Barefoot. Many essential oils can be pain relieving. So this ends the educational portion of the video, and the following are specific combinations that you can purchase that include the before mentioned substances. In this time of mistrust, it is of utmost importance that you put your trust in a company that manufacturing quality is of the highest grade, and I believe NSP is that company. It's where I've put my family's health and my health for over 40 years. And these are the products I've taken and recommended to clients for best results. So the first product I want to talk about is an anti-inflammatory pain relieving formula called IF Relief Formula. And it's got the boswellia, the andrographis, the mangosteen, turmeric, and white willow. White willow is the product or herb that aspirin was originally made from. Of course, now it's nothing but coal tar and garbage. There's no herb in it. Its potential benefits: it's broad-acting anti-inflammatory that aids healing and reduces pain. I took this when I severely injured my ankles. I was, the only way I could get around was on my knees, and I took this every hour the first day. I took it every hour. And then after that, the next day I could go, I did other things too. I did compresses and things, but I never took any kind of pain medication because pain medications do not help you heal. This did. So it's useful for a lot of pain. I have people that have used it for chronic pain. I've used it for dental work. It's a really good one. We also have another one called Relief Formula that is good. This one seems to be just a little bit stronger, but Relief Formula is a great one to use for chronic pain. So then there's the CBD topical analgesic formula. My husband uses this all the time. It has a kind of a minty flavor smell to it. It has the CBD extract, and it's in a base of the aloe vera juice, and it has arnica in it. And so this would be a really great for muscle aches or joint pain. It really can go deep, and it increases energy and blood supply to the damaged areas. And you don't have to worry about, you can take the capsule form of the IF Relief and do this topically, so you can really bump up. Then there's hemp oil. Now, hemp oil has no CBD. It's no THC, so it's legal in all the states, and provides omega-3 essential fatty acids with other anti-inflammatories to ease inflammation and pain. So this is a really good mixed cough rolls, means that it has vitamin E in it. And we talked about ginger, and it's similar to capsaicin in the moving the blood. Very, very, very helpful. So then there's the CBD anti-inflammatory formula. So this is one you would take internally. It's the daytime formula, 25 milligrams, and it has the whole plant cannabis in it, cannabis seed. And holy basil. There's a lot of wonderful information out there on holy basil as far as healing both emotional and physical pain. So this one is a really, really good one to take. It's safe and very effective. Another topical analgesic has been around for years and years and years. Actually, when I started Nature Sunshine 40 years ago, it was the main one is ancient Chinese remedy that boy, I've used it for so many things. Stop bruising, all kinds of pain. So this one's a really, really good one, and I highly recommend it. It comes both in the essential oil, and it also has a cream that you can mix it with other topicals, but I've also used it straight. The thing is that you don't want to rub your eyes after you use this, but I've had people open up their sinuses simply by putting a few drops on the palms of their hands, rubbing their hands together, cupping their nose with it and breathing it in, and it really can open up the sinuses for that. And there's the lotion that I talked about. It also contains arnica. So I'm going to open it up now for questions. If there's anybody that wants to talk, I can, let's see here, unmute all. All right. So does anybody want to, anybody have any questions here? All participants are unmuted, it says. I guess maybe you can unmute yourself if you have a question. So, and if there's no questions, then you can feel free to comment in the YouTube recording of this, or you can send me an email, drmary@bornforhealth.com. And it looks like they're either I did a really good job or you're you're all satisfied in what I said. So this is the Kemp that my husband uses, and it's really, really been very, very helpful for him in dealing with shoulder pain. And, you know, when you're in your mid 70s, you get these aches and pains. So thank you for joining me today. Please share this and send some thumbs up. If you're liking what you hear, and visit some of my other videos on the CBD. So thank you. This is Dr. Mary for the health of it, and I appreciate you watching today.